Just off the coast of a Caribbean island most people cannot even find on a map, there's a hole in the ocean floor that seems to swallow light. Divers who have gone into it come back describing passages that branch in every direction, tunnels no human has ever mapped, and flooded chambers holding the bones of animals that vanished thousands of years ago. The island is called Andros. It is the largest landmass in the Bahamas, and also one of the loneliest. Fewer than 8,000 people live on it, but beneath that island and all around it sits something almost impossible to believe. More unexplored ground than nearly anywhere else on Earth, and hardly anyone is talking about it. Before we go under, do me a quick favor and tap that subscribe button. This channel digs into the hidden corners of the world that the history books quietly skip over. And trust me, this is one of the strangest ones out there. Alright, let's descend. To understand why Andros is so bizarre, you have to forget everything you picture when you hear the word Bahamas. Forget the resorts, the cruise ships, and the postcard beaches. Because the real Bahamas is not really a chain of islands at all. It is the top of a mountain, a vast platform of limestone that has been building layer by layer for more than 100 million years. Geologists call it the Great Bahama Bank, and the islands you can actually see, all 700 of them, are just the few spots where that platform pokes above the waterline. Almost everything else is still submerged. If the sea dropped by even 30 meters, the Bahamas would not be a scattering of tiny islands anymore. It would be one enormous country, bigger than dozens of nations that exist today. That land is already there. It is just underwater, hidden beneath a few feet of impossibly clear turquoise sea, and most of it has never been properly studied. Andros sits right at the edge of this platform. On one side, shallow flats stretch for miles, so bright they look almost fake from the air. On the other side, the seafloor simply falls off a cliff. This is the tongue of the ocean, a trench that plunges to depths of around 2,000 meters, close enough to the beach that you can stand on the shore and be steps away from water deeper than most mountains are tall. The United States Navy noticed this a long time ago. They quietly built a research station on the island to test submarines and sonar down in that trench, because there are very few places on Earth where deep ocean comes this close to dry land. That alone should tell you something. This tiny island is surrounded by extremes. It is not only the trench either. Running along the eastern edge of Andros is a barrier reef more than 100 miles long, one of the largest reef systems on the planet, and it drops straight into that same abyss. So on a single small island, you have three completely different frontiers stacked right against each other. A living reef on one side, a 2,000-meter trench just beyond it, and as we are about to see, a honeycomb of flooded caves boring straight down through the rock underneath. Very few places on Earth pack that much of the unknown into so little space, because the strangest part is what is happening inside the island itself. Andros is riddled with holes, not caves you can walk into, but vertical shafts that drop straight down into darkness and fill with water. They are called blue holes, and Andros has more of them than any other place on the planet. Estimates put it at over 170 on land, and dozens more scattered across the ocean floor offshore. From above, they look like dark pupils staring up out of the shallows, perfect circles of deep blue punched into the pale turquoise flats. Here is what makes them so unsettling. Nobody knows how deep most of them go, and nobody knows where they lead. Some of these shafts connect to each other through underwater tunnels, forming networks that snake for miles beneath the island. Cave divers have spent decades trying to map them, and they have barely scratched the surface. Every expedition that goes in seems to find another passage, another branch, another room that appears on no chart anywhere. You could spend a lifetime down there and still not reach the end of it, and the deeper they go, the weirder it gets. Because these blue holes are not just empty pipes in the rock, they are time capsules. In many of these flooded caves, the water separates into layers. Near the surface, you get fresh rainwater that has soaked down through the limestone. Below that sits a layer of salt water pushing in from the sea, and right where the two meet, there is often a cloud of hydrogen sulfide, a toxic haze that smells like rotten eggs and blocks out almost all the light. Below that layer, there is no oxygen at all. Nothing lives there. Nothing rots there. And that is exactly why these caves have become some of the most important scientific sites in the entire Caribbean. When an animal fell into one of these holes thousands of years ago, its body sank below the oxygen line and simply stopped decaying. On a nearby island, in a blue hole called Sawmill Sink, divers pulled up a fossil record so complete it stunned researchers. They found the near-perfect shell of a giant tortoise that has been extinct for well over 1,000 years. They found the remains of a Cuban crocodile in a place where crocodiles no longer live. They found birds, bats, snakes, and plants, all preserved in extraordinary detail, stacked like pages in a book that recorded the island's entire history. And then they found something that stopped the conversation completely: human bones. The remains of the Lucayans, the original people of these islands, resting at the bottom of the dark alongside the extinct animals. Of everything pulled out of these caves, those human remains raised the hardest questions. The Lucayans were the first people Christopher Columbus ever met in the New World. When he stepped onto a Bahamian beach in 1492, it was Lucayan people who greeted him. Within about 2 decades, they were almost entirely gone. The Spanish shipped them off to work and die in distant mines and pearl beds, and disease finished what slavery had started. An entire people, the original owners of these islands, erased so completely that we know shockingly little about how they actually lived. And now, centuries later, some of the best surviving evidence of who they were is not sitting in a museum. It is at the bottom of a flooded cave, protected by the same airless dark that preserved the tortoises and the crocodiles. The holes remember a civilization the surface forgot. Think about what that actually means. These holes are not just geological oddities. They are archives. They hold a record of Caribbean life going back thousands of years, sealed away in airless water, waiting to be read. And out of the hundreds of blue holes on and around Andros alone, only a tiny handful have ever been explored with any real care. The rest are still sitting there in the dark, full of information no one has ever seen. The people who go into these caves are a rare breed. Cave diving is often called the most dangerous sport on Earth, and Bahamian blue holes sit near the top of that list. One of the most experienced divers to work them, Brian Kakuk, has spent years mapping systems across the Bahamas, and even he describes finding rooms that stop you cold. In caves like Dan's Cave on Abaco, the walls are covered in delicate white mineral formations, stalactites and crystal decorations so fine that one careless kick of a fin can destroy something that took tens of thousands of years to grow. And those formations are the real bombshell. Stalactites only form in open air. They grow drop by drop from the ceiling of a dry cave. So the fact that they are now sitting deep underwater in total darkness proves these caves were once high and dry. The sea was not always here. The ocean rose and drowned an entire landscape, formations and all, and froze the evidence in place. Every one of those crystals is a receipt for a lost world. In 2009 and 2010, a team of scientists and divers backed by National Geographic launched one of the most ambitious attempts ever made to study these systems. They pushed into blue holes across the Bahamas, sampling the water, collecting fossils, and filming passages no camera had ever entered. What they brought back only deepened the mystery. Bacteria living inside the toxic sulfide layer, surviving with almost no oxygen, the kind of extreme life scientists study to understand how organisms might survive on other planets. Chemical conditions that echo the early Earth before oxygen filled the atmosphere. Some researchers now treat these caves less like tourist curiosities and more like living laboratories for questions about the origin of life itself. The work also carried a cost. Wes Skiles, one of the finest underwater cameramen in the world and a driving force behind the project, died in a diving accident not long after. That is the kind of price tag hanging over this frontier. But not everyone who lives on Andros sees these holes as science. To them, the darkness in those tunnels belongs to something else entirely. For generations, Bahamians have told stories about a creature called the Lusca, part shark, part octopus, enormous, and living in the deepest blue holes. According to the legend, the Lusca is what causes the water in certain holes to suddenly rush inward, dragging boats and swimmers down into the tunnels below. And here is the uncomfortable part. That inward rush is real. Tidal changes force water in and out of these connected cave systems with enough power to create genuine whirlpools at the surface. Fishermen have watched the sea get sucked down a hole and then breathe back out hours later. You can understand how, long before anyone had the science to explain it. People decided a monster was doing the breathing. Whether or not you believe in the Lusca, the fear points at something true. These systems are dangerous, they are powerful, and they are far larger than anything visible from the surface. People who grew up on this island have spent their whole lives next to openings in the ground that could pull a grown man under, and still nobody can say for certain what is at the bottom. And then there is the fringe. Off the island of Bimini, in the far northwest of the Bahamas, lies a long line of massive rectangular stones sitting under about 6 meters of water. It is known as the Bimini Road. Ever since it was found in the late 1960s, people have argued it is the remains of a road, a wall, or even a piece of the lost city of Atlantis, built by some vanished civilization and swallowed by the sea. Most geologists say it is natural beach rock that cracked into neat blocks, nothing more. But the debate has never fully died, and it feeds the same nagging feeling this whole island group produces. When so much of the land is drowned and unmapped, how confident can anyone really be about what is and is not down there? So let's come back to the claim that started all of this. More unexplained land than any country on Earth. It sounds like an exaggeration, and it is not really about Andros by itself. It is about what Andros represents. The Bahamas controls a territory of ocean that stretches across hundreds of thousands of square kilometers, and the overwhelming majority of that territory is not deep open sea. It is that shallow submerged platform, drowned land that was actually dry during the last ice age, when sea levels were far lower, and much of the bank stood above the waves. People almost certainly walked across ground that is now underwater. Animals lived on it, and when the ice melted and the ocean rose, all of it disappeared beneath the surface, taking whatever was there down with it. To really grasp the scale, picture this. The Great Bahama Bank alone covers well over 100,000 square kilometers. Almost all of it sits underwater so shallow you could wade across parts of it, yet on most maps it is treated as empty blue nothing. During the ice ages, when so much of the world's water was locked up in glaciers, huge stretches of that bank were open plains. Grass, forest, fresh water, animals, and very likely people, all spread across a landmass many times bigger than the islands we see today. Then the world warmed, the sea climbed, and that country vanished beneath the waves in what is, geologically speaking, the blink of an eye. It did not erode away. It did not get destroyed. It is still there, intact, just submerged. That is the land nobody has mapped. Not the beaches and the resorts, but the enormous flooded shelf underneath them, and the maze of caves threaded all the way through it. We have better maps of the surface of the moon than we do of the tunnels beneath this one island. Every serious expedition comes back with more questions than answers. New species of tiny organisms that exist nowhere else. Chemical layers that behave in ways researchers still argue about. Passages that keep going long after the divers have to turn back, because they simply cannot carry enough air to continue. Today, only a small number of scientists and cave divers are seriously working these systems, and the challenges are brutal. The dives are some of the most dangerous in the world. The hydrogen sulfide layer can knock a person out. The passages are tight, pitch black, and unforgiving, and a single wrong turn miles into a flooded cave means you do not come home. Funding is thin. Public attention is thinner. Most visitors to the Bahamas will float over these holes on a boat, snap a photo of the pretty blue circle, and never once realize they are looking straight down into one of the last genuinely unexplored places left on the map. And the clock is ticking in a strange way. As sea levels rise and the storms grow stronger, these fragile caves and the records they hold are quietly changing. Some of what is down there has survived, untouched, for thousands of years. Whether it survives long enough for us to actually study it is another question entirely. And here is the part that should sit with you. New blue holes are still being found. Every few years, someone flying over the flats or scanning the seabed spots another dark circle that was never on any map, another entrance into a system nobody knew existed. On an island that has been inhabited for centuries and photographed from orbit countless times, the basic question of how many of these holes even exist still doesn't have a firm answer. This is not some remote jungle at the ends of the earth. It's a Caribbean island, a short flight from Florida, and we still cannot fully tell you what is underneath it. There is something humbling about all of this. We tend to assume the age of exploration is over, that every mountain has been climbed, every coastline charted, every blank spot on the map already filled in. But here is this one small island in the Caribbean, quiet, sparsely populated, easy to overlook, sitting on top of a hidden world we have barely begun to understand. The bones of vanished animals, the remains of a lost people, miles of tunnels no light has ever touched, all of it waiting right under the feet of a few thousand people who call this place home. Andros is not tiny at all. It just hides most of itself underwater. And until someone finally maps what lies beneath it, that huge, silent, unexplored country will stay exactly where it has always been. Down there in the dark, keeping its secrets, right off the coast of the last island anyone ever thought to look. If you want to see more places like this, the forgotten corners of the world that turn out stranger than any fiction, there's another story waiting for you on screen right now. Go find out what else is still hiding out there,